Good afternoon. I want to thank all of you for joining us here today and welcome you to our webinar talk, Visionary Leadership in a Time of Change. My name is Lisa Adams and I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions here at Bay Path College. Joining me today is our guest speaker, Dr. Carol Leary, President of Bay Path College. Dr. Leary became president of Bay Path College in December 1994. During her tenure, Bay Path has added a graduate school with 11 Master of Science degrees, enriched and enlarged the curriculum with new baccalaureate programs and professional certificates, expanded and renovated major campus buildings, added 2 additional campus locations in Sturbridge and Burlington, Massachusetts, launched a unique one-day-a-week Saturday program for adult women, and an online degree completion program for women. Joining her today is our moderator, Dr. Lauren Way, Program Director for the MS in Higher Education Administration program. Dr. Way has been with Bay Path College since 2006 and has over 15 years experience in higher education administration. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment just to orient you a bit to this online environment. Just under our welcome message in the question box, you will see an empty box. You can type questions here, click send, and we'll be able to read these and respond to you. However, we are going to answer all questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to type them in as you get them throughout the presentation. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn the presentation over to Dr. Leary and Dr. Way.
Welcome to Bay Path College. I'm Dr. Lauren Way, and I can say that as the director of Bay Path College's Master of Science in Higher Education Administration degree, our program teaches students not just to prepare for specific roles in higher education, enrollment management, admissions, general administration roles, student affairs, but it also teaches all students to think in big visionary ways. And so we are so pleased that Dr. Leary agreed to join us today to discuss some of these issues that we've been working on in our classes throughout the last few semesters, and to discuss visionary leadership during a time of change. And I think Dr. Leary will begin by discussing what do we mean by visionary leadership and what do we mean by this time of change. Welcome, Dr. Leary.
Thank you so much, Lauren. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. It's an honor, actually. And today we're going to select this visionary leadership in a time of change topic because I truly believe it's one of the most important things as leaders and managers of higher education that we must consider. But let me fully disclose. I usually put a pile of reading on my desk for the weekend. And last week I prepared my presentation for all of you today. But on Saturday, I read the back page of the Chronicle, and I could not believe the parallels to the topic, visionary leadership in a time of change. And so I wanted to alert you to this, direct you to it. It is written by Dennis Barden, and he is a search consultant working with colleges and universities to select their next president. And he really talked in many ways about what boards of trustees and selection committees are looking for in their leaders in higher ed. Vision was one of the most critical characteristics that all boards and search committees are looking for. So I think today's topic is very, very timely. So let's get right into it. Let me share with you what some of the common characteristics are for a visionary leader, and obviously these are from my perspective. Number one, I truly believe that the visionary leader asks the questions, what if? What if we did it this way? What if we added a new program? How would it affect the college or university? How would it affect the students that we serve? I think the big picture questions are the ones that visionary leaders ask. Number two, I think visionary leaders seek challenges. I don't think they shrink away from challenges. They decide, I'm going to take a chance. Now, obviously, you may win, you may lose, but taking that opportunity and seeking that challenge, I think, are really key characteristics of a visionary leader. Number 3, I truly believe the visionary leader understands trends. Again, understands the challenges that are facing their institution, their sector in society, namely higher education, and they also look for the opportunities. Trends. I want to spend time on this because trends, how do you understand trends? I think one of the key characteristics of a visionary leader is that they are constantly reading their environment. They are asking questions. They are talking to those around them and asking them, what are you hearing in the field? What new programs are coming down the line? They are reading. They are constantly reading. I know this may sound unusual, but I read every single piece of mail that crosses my desk, because even that piece of junk mail might have something in it that pertains to higher education or to learning or to students and what they're looking for. So understanding trends, understanding what challenges may be there, but really seeking those opportunities. Number 4, a visionary leader really takes calculated risks. Let's separate that. Calculated and risks. By calculated, I mean you have to have your data. You have to know some of the risks involved, but you have to know from a calculated perspective, how many times did something succeed? How many times did it lose? Maybe you're looking at trends in population or demographics. You need to have that under your belt before you take the risk, because then you're taking a calculated risk. But don't shy away from risks, because I truly believe that's one of the things a visionary leader is willing to do. And finally, a visionary leader leads and manages. I've often heard that those who lead have great vision. They understand how to put together a visionary plan for their organization, and that managers do. But I believe a visionary leader must do both. They must lead, and they need to know how to manage. They need to know how to inspire those that they hire. Probably the most important thing a visionary leader does is hire the right people. Let's move on to a couple of other characteristics about visionary leadership that I think are very important. And this is that a visionary leader does not necessarily have to be the president of an organization. I consider visionary leadership at every single level of an organization. Department head, a division head, a brand new employee that in your interview you might ask, be looking around. If you have any ideas that can improve our institution, please share them with your supervisor. Your best ideas may come from your newest hire. Visionary leadership will be absolutely key to advancing in any organization. And so that's why today's webinar is so important for all of us, because we can help our organizations change, meet the challenges of the future, but we have to be visionaries. We have to be visionary leaders because it is a key characteristic for this very fast-paced, technologically driven, and global society. If you don't have someone who is constantly thinking about what the next trend might be in higher ed, if you don't have those individuals in your organization, not just the president, who's asking, what if, then your organization will stagnate. And finally, I do believe that, as I said before, visionary leaders are coming from every level within the organization. And so for those of you who are prospective students of higher education or in our courses in higher education, know that you can be the visionary leader in your division, in your department, and even in the organization. Now, time of change. This is a really important topic for visionary leaders, but let me talk about today in higher education. I truly believe we are at a revolutionary point in higher ed, and I'm going to equate it to the late 1800s, post-Civil War, Industrial Revolution. Things were changing so quickly, and today we are having that same fast-paced environment, but in many ways very, very different, because today we're dealing with explosions in technology and new ways of delivering education. Communication, instantaneous, FaceTime, Skyping. We can even see the people across the world that we're talking to now. And connectivity. Some really important books that have shaped my thinking about visionary leaders really started with Tom Friedman's The World is Flat. After reading that book, that instantaneous communication and how we learn now, information at our fingertips, that book really was one of the most important books I think I read in the last 5 years. Clayton Christensen's book, The Innovative University, Changing Higher Ed's DNA from the Inside Out. He wrote that book with Henry Eyring. So I think that is another key book that I read that I think really has to do with change in our industry. And Reinventing Higher Education, The Promise of Innovation by Walewski and Kelly and Carey, another key book to read. But changes in higher education are going to come very, very quickly in the next several years. Why? Recession. People are asking questions. The public is scrutinizing, what am I getting for the investment that I am paying for now? And changes in government support. We are all facing a very different America, a new America that is diverse, global, fast-paced, and we must keep up with the new models of education to educate the student where they are, not where we are. We have to understand where our students are. Now the vision. Let's talk about vision in terms of the process. I think this is important because in many ways this is the detail. How does one develop a vision? As I said before, in many cases reading the trends, using your own personal instincts and understanding of the culture that you're in and the wider environment in which we all work. Also, you need key stakeholders to give you ideas. Get input. Hire well, as I said before, but then encourage every level in the organization to be thinking creatively, to give you input on what they think a new vision could encompass. As I said before, you need to assess your current and competitive environment. Look at what similar institutions are doing, but also look at institutions that are on the cutting edge and find out what has been their success points. Would it fit within your own institution? And finally, international trends. We are no longer the only country in America offering higher education that is a quality education. We have many competitors internationally, and I think we can learn from them. America used to have the most number of international students. It was wonderful. But Australia moved in very quickly, and now many of the students from Asia that would attend an English-speaking university are now going to Australia instead of England or America. And Malaysia, one of those rising countries that is really looking at higher ed as an industry. So watch for international trends as well. Let's talk about some pre-vision development, setting our boundaries. One of the most critical things we need to do in vision is ask the tough questions. And I think in any vision planning, talking again about process, we need to put on the table the tough questions. So whether it's you in a department or you as a president of your organization, here's what we have to ask. What are we willing to relinquish or change? Are there any sacred cows that it would harm us to change? What are our limitations? What are the no negotiation items that we have to consider? For example, a president or a division chair might say, there's no negotiation on the fact that we may have to drop something, to add something. That may be a game changer. It may be one of those key parts of the vision that we must all consider. Possible loss of human resources. If you enter the vision thinking that you are going to add, know that your board members are going to question the financial plan, and I'm going to get to that. So you might have a loss of human resources to gain a different type of human resource. Number 5, I think there is sometimes a reluctance to change long-used models. I think the visionary leader has to question the models. You're going to win in some cases. You may not be able to change a model that you truly believe must be changed, but you must put that on the table for questioning. I really believe that in today's higher education environment, we are not only being scrutinized by the public and by the government regulations that we must abide by, but I think boards of higher education are more deeply involved. Read what happened at the University of Virginia. Watch presidents that are leaving to move it to other institutions. We need to understand that sometimes we as heads of departments or as presidents are not always led by our own thinking. We have boards who are asking tough questions, and we have to listen to those tough questions and bring them to the table. But boards of trustees are now getting much more into the weeds than just staying at a bigger vision and level of inspiration. They are definitely getting more into the management. Let's talk about the components of vision. What are the key components of a strong vision? I think it has to be aspirational, number one. I think we have to aspire to doing things better, aspire to doing things we've never done before, aspiring to meeting our students' needs in new and different ways. I think a vision needs to be data-driven, but once you have your data, you've entered it into your vision, I think you also must trust your gut instincts. I do so much from gut instincts, but I always have my data. When I walk into a meeting, I have done my homework, and I have the data to back up that gut instinct. Number three, I think there has to be a defined process of execution. I think we need to set the goals, objectives, decide who's going to do it and how. Timeline. If you do not have a timeline, you're not going to get to the end of your vision within any reasonable amount of time. You need to know that the visionary leader and those that are working on this vision must stick to a timeline. Financial companion document. Every vision must have the financial components listed. What are the expenses? What are the potential revenues? Are we going to have a fundraising campaign during this vision? What are we going to build or do that requires debt? And what is the debt service on our budgets? Are we going to use endowment funds? This is one that some college boards of trustees will say they will never touch the endowment. I venture to risk touching your endowment when you could be going under versus touching an endowment that could help you meet the demands of a new type of education. That is a critical question for the visionary leader. Investment returns. Know what to expect. I always budget conservatively. If in the past we thought we were going to get an 8% return on our endowments, now our boards are looking at a much lower investment return. And now I want to add one final thing. I want you to be ready for the detours in your vision. Know that detours are going to happen. We were in the middle of our vision and we had the most incredible recession in our lifetime. What did we do? Did we cry over this? No. We completely looked at the vision and redirected it and made it much more realistic to the times. So that is an important thing. Be ready for the detours. And also, you need to be ready for the opportunities. Giving you one example, we had completely written the vision. And some people love a document. They love to check it off. They want to go A to B to C to D. Forget that. As I said, you're going to have detours. But when an opportunity comes your way, you also need to grab it. One quick example, as I said, in January of 2010, one of the worst points in the recession, I went to a conference. I heard the president of Princeton, Dr. Shirley Tillman, speak about science and the brain being the most untapped potential for America. Immediately called our provost and our dean of enrollment, neuroscience. Do you believe we launched neuroscience this fall? I came back from that conference, a letter from a doctor. That doctor lived in our town. He said, Dr. Leary, I've been watching the college. I'm going to be thinking about retiring in the future. Here are some of my interests. I might be interested in teaching part-time. P.S. Have you ever thought about a physician assistant master's? Bingo, I brought that doctor in, had never met him, sat with him for 45 minutes. At the end of that meeting, I knew he was on to something. Immediately, we added a PA Master's into the vision. It has been one of the most transforming programs we have ever done. Let's talk about the time frame of a vision. How long should a vision plan reach? In the past, we had 10-year visions, 10-year master plans. We then went to 5 years. I'll be honest with you, we are down to 3. And recently, I just saw a local agency in our region, and they had a 3-year vision. No longer, and it was the Economic Development Council, no longer can we plan 5 years out. 5 years ago, we did not have an iPad. So what are some of the essential questions for a visionary leader in higher education in particular? These are the questions I would ask. What will be the best model for the student leaders of today and tomorrow? Don't ask about the past. What's the model for the future? What will make a student's investment in our institution worthwhile? We have to all be ready to answer that question. And what are the metrics we must employ to show we've been successful? We have to have that data. We have to know how we're being successful. Assessment today in higher ed is absolutely critical for these very reasons. And then, what is the level of impact on the college's financial resources for future generations? I am worried, to be perfectly honest, about colleges and universities leveraging their resources with debt. And I always think about, who will my successor be? Do I want to be left with debt? I was left with no debt by my predecessor, and it made for all the difference in the world when we put that very first vision together. So, we've talked about visionary leadership. Let's talk about in a time of change and the need for change. I was blessed to have gone through the IEM program at Harvard University as a seasoned vice president. And Arthur Levine was the director of the program at that time. He is now at the Woodrow Wilson National Fellowship Foundation. He also served as the president of Teachers College. And he said in an article in the Chronicle several months ago, and I passed it around to my executive team, he said, our colleges and universities were created for the industrial era. Do you recall what I just said about revolution? They work less well today than they once did. Too many seem to be broken. They need to be refitted for a newer world. Their inertia is stopping them from modernizing. As criticism has mounted over a university's inability to change, their presidents, for the most part, are viewed as defending them. I would have to say Arthur Levine is probably right. We cannot defend a model that no longer works for the student of today. So are you willing, finally, to take the risks? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Look at that cup as always half full, not half empty. What I truly believe a visionary leader must do is say to themselves, what risks are you willing to take? And what difficult decisions are you willing to make? I hope this gives you some perspective of my own thinking about visionary leadership, and I am truly looking forward to any of the questions that you might have that we can further explore together. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Dr. Lurie, we'll be taking questions in a few moments. You can go ahead and type them in. I'd like to turn it back to Lisa Adams, Director of our admissions program.
Thank you, Dr. Lurie and Dr. Way. Just to give you a little bit of background on Bay Path College, the college was established in 1897, so we have a long history of providing educational opportunities in the Pioneer Valley and now across the country with our online graduate programs. Our main physical campus is located in Western Massachusetts in Long Meadow. At Bay Path, classroom learning and real-life experience combine for a meaningful education. From our founding, we have emphasized a career-focused curriculum that prepares people to become professionals and leaders in their field. Our innovative programs for undergraduate women with over 30 majors and minors, as well as our one-day-a-week Saturday program and our online degree completion program for adult women, graduate programs for men and women, and BayPath Online have made us a pioneer among peers. BayPath is distinctively different from other women's colleges because it provides opportunities for women to achieve their goal of obtaining a degree in a number of formats: traditional, on-campus, weekend, online, and now through the online degree completion program for women. The online degree completion program is an accelerated undergrad degree program that will allow women to obtain their Bachelor of Arts degree with a major in leadership and organizational studies. We are accredited by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. At BayPath, we offer our graduate programs weekday evenings and online. That leads me to our online Master of Science in Higher Education Administration program. It's your turn to be the student, and your classroom is entirely online. You can choose your area of concentration: enrollment, institutional advancement, fundraising, online teaching and program administration, and general administration. And whether you're in a public university or a private college, you'll be joining theory with practical application because your professors have been there. They've worked at higher education institutions all over the globe. U.S. higher education in the 21st century is evolving. It's being driven by the needs of students who could be 18 or working adults, evolving technologies that are constantly redefining the classroom, and economic pressures demanding a link between value, quality, and outcomes. The Master of Science in Higher Ed Administration connects you to the most current issues in education in a network of professionals in colleges and universities throughout the country. You'll be building an invaluable library of resources, knowledge, and people. Our program consists of 12 courses which can be completed in 12 to 24 months. We hope you enjoyed today's talk, and before we open it for questions, we would like to invite you to join us for the next webinar in our series, Disruptive Forces in Higher Education, hosted by Dr. Melissa Morris-Olson, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at BayPath College. We now would like to open it up to questions and any observations or comments that you might have. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Way and Dr. Leary to field those questions.
This is Dr. Lauren Way. Thank you so much again for joining us. We have questions coming in right now. One question several people have asked is, can I access a copy of this presentation? And in fact, I believe we have recorded the presentation along with the slides, and we will post this on our BayPath College website in the near future. I believe we can also send a copy of this to any registrant who's currently, any attendee who's currently with us now. We can send you a copy. So I'm just going to read some questions, and Dr. Leary will get started. Okay, so our first question is a bit about Arthur Levine and his challenging ideas on education. The question is, with the idea that our universities were created for the industrial era, apart from the need to champion distance education, what other transformational changes does Levine think need to happen? And I'll turn this over to Dr. Leary.
And I can't share with you specifically what he currently is suggesting, and I'm not even suggesting that he is promoting online education. what he is saying is that we have to look at the models of higher ed today and not be fearful to change them because they were created for that industrial revolution. I think, though, beyond online education, I think experiential learning, putting theory into practice, is going to be even more of a trendsetter in the future. I think less seat time in college classrooms where students are really using their education in a different way than merely taking a test and writing a paper, but doing a project. I think that education at a student's own pace, I think blowing up the semester model is something that we have to think about, and it's threatening, I'm sure, to think about changing a model that has been in existence for 100 years, over 100 years of 2 14-week semesters with a January break and summer off. What if students worked part of the year and then took courses throughout the summer from January till September? Let's think about the student, and that's the way I think we need to think about structuring higher ed for the future. We can also not just think of 18 to 22-year-olds. In many ways, that's only less than 25% of our population, 18 to 22 living on a college campus. Think about all the adults entering higher ed. Should they be in 14-week semesters, sitting in a classroom, or if they're part-time, going 2 nights a week? Maybe we have to blow up the whole model to understand. And I've often said this, ask the consumer, ask the student, what would be a model that would fit your lifestyle today? And think of just doing that one simple thing.
Excellent, thank you. We have several other questions coming in and also some wonderful comments. We have some current students in the audience who are writing, wow, the Bay Path College Higher Education Administration degree is the best program ever, and I thank you for that. We do have a very high level of satisfaction among our students. That is something that we've known for some time. Our students are very, very pleased with the program, the students who are currently in the program and have just graduated. Another terrific question here for Dr. Leary. Why do you think so many institutions are so reluctant to change and let go of long-used and obsolete models and ways of doing things?
When you think of who is going to possibly be hurt by change, and I think that's number one. I think no president, no head of a division wants to think about changing a model that might hurt someone. So let me reflect deeper. If the individual has been in an institution for 30 years, has not been that understanding of how technology can help them enrich their classroom, and basically has said, that's not my teaching style. I want to look in the eyes of my students. I want to do a lecture and have them have, face-to-face conversation. Think of that 30-year person. You wouldn't want to hurt that individual's feelings. You don't want to belittle what they've been doing for 30 years. So I think people are sometimes reluctant to hurt the individual. Changing a model. Everything has been structured around the model. Financial aid, admissions. It doesn't just mean changing the model of teaching and learning. It means changing the model of the administration that has serviced the faculty and the academic mission of an institution. One example, if you move to Saturdays teaching women when that's when they can attend college, guess what? Financial aid cannot be Monday through Friday. It can't be 9 to 5. You now have online 24/7. You need to put in place a model that will respond to the student at 2 a.m. in the morning who needs tutoring. So it affects every part of the institution. It is mammoth when someone might think about making change.
Excellent, thank you. We have another great question that relates to this visionary process. I lead a small department and am responsible for some upcoming change. How do you get buy-in on the process and the goals from your faculty and staff? What do you do to get that buy-in, which is so important?
I think you ask them the question we started with, what if? I think you need to have an inclusive process. You yourself might have some wonderful ideas for how you might want to change that department. I would suggest you bring everyone in to that conversation because, as I said, the newest employee might have a way to change a process, re-engineer a process. They may bring you an idea from the institution or organization that they had just, worked at. I think you need to involve your entire department. But remember, make sure they understand not every idea will be taken, that you have to measure the ideas, you have to test it against data, you have to test it with other parts of the institution that are also creating a vision for the future. But asking them to be part of this, I think, is absolutely critical. And back in 1996, when we framed the very first vision that I was a part of, we invited faculty and staff of all levels within the institution to a session that at that time I called Musing, asked the what-if questions, and took money off the table. I immediately said, don't worry what it's going to cost. Just give me your best ideas for the future.
Excellent. So it really is about engaging everyone in the process. It's all about the ideas are going to come from folks. They're going to come to them collectively, bubble up, catch on, and it all becomes a collective process. That's the best way to generate buy-in. Great. We have a few more good questions. Dr. Leary, you spoke of how taking risks leads to both winners and losers. If being a visionary leader can result in some setbacks, how do you feel with them? How do you deal with them constructively so you can keep going and moving forward? It's got to be challenging.
It's very challenging. Admit them. That is the number one thing to do. Admit them. My lowest moments at Bay Path College were during the recession years when I had to stand before the faculty and the staff and say, we had a great vision. We had a plan to do X, Y, and Z. Unfortunately, with the recession, the investment portfolio has dropped significantly, and we're going to all have to take some sacrifices. I had to tell people they weren't going to get raises. I was so worried this could sap creativity. But I admitted it, and I said we have to move forward. And that's just what we did. And 1 year later, our bottom line was incredibly strong.
Thank you. I see a message from one of our current students, I recognize the name, who's saying that with regards to buy-in and also dealing with some of these challenging situations when there's some significant change that impacts people, she's suggesting that letting your team know that you're a real and genuine person helps with buy-in, so being a part of the group.
Absolutely, and I often use a word, and I share this with students often, be authentic. If you're authentic and you're real and you can feel, you have to be able to feel joy and you have to be able to feel pain. And if you can do that, I think it's one of those incredibly good characteristics to understand when you're working with all types of individuals during all times, good and bad.
Thank you. Excellent. So we have a question about when did the online teaching and program administration concentration begin? And I know this must be from someone who just heard of it, because in fact it's just come out. I'm not even sure if it's all up on the website yet. We have just launched our online teaching and program administration concentration within this program, the Higher Education Administration program. Dr. Leary is cheering in the background because she just realized that it got passed. We just had it passed through all of our committees here at the college, and we are launching this program. It's a fantastic program. Students will be gaining an understanding of how to be a college administrator, how to think of visionary ways, but they'll also be engaging in courses where they're learning how do we build online community, how do we build classrooms that are interactive for all different types of students on the go, how do we assess our programs, how do we assess our curriculum that's online curriculum. So Dr. Leary is thrilled that this is a brand new online concentration. So the answer to when did it begin is we are just beginning to recruit for that program. Students can begin this spring in that program, and their online administration and teaching specific programs will begin in the fall. There's really two things there. You can actually get a certificate in online teaching, how to become a good online teacher. You could get a certificate in how to become an online program administrator. You might already be an administrator for a provost in a college, etc., and you might be being asked to launch new programs. So you can get a certificate in either one of those, or together you will have a degree in higher education administration with the concentration in online teaching and program administration. So good. We have another question of any thoughts on offering a PhD in higher education administration. That is something we would love to do.
We would love to do that program, and as I said to Lauren just a few moments ago, I'd love to teach the course in visionary leadership in such a program. We have talked about this. I can't share with you when it will happen, but it is certainly one of those programs that is on our vision planning document, or it's in our vision planning document. It's just a matter of when. But know that Bay Path is seriously considering this.
Brian is asking, Brian has said, great presentation. Would you be able to answer questions on the Masters of Occupational Therapy program? And we would love to do that. We will contact you directly, Brian. I believe your email is right here listed, and we will have an admissions counselor who can either call you this afternoon or tomorrow, or email you with information right away. Our occupational therapy program is extremely popular. It's a wonderful program. I even had my own child analyzed by students in that program. He served as a case study, and the students are just fantastic. They're phenomenal, and the professors are amazing. They're from all over the country. Students fly in from, or actually move to our region in order to join this program. Someone just bought a house near the college so they can be from Wyoming, so they could be in this program. So it's a fantastic program. Other questions, we'll give another minute for folks to ask other questions with regards to the presentation Dr. Leary made today on visionary leadership, or with regard to the higher education administration program.
I just want to say thank you for your valuable time. We hope that there have been a few tips along the way that you learned today, and know again what an honor it was for me to be with you in this format. Thank you very much, and I'll turn the program back to Lisa Adams.
Great. Thank you very much. I think I can speak for myself, I'm sure, as everybody in the audience today. That was very informative. I want to say thank you to all of you for taking time out of probably your lunch or your business day, and we hope to see you either online or on campus for one of our future events. As I mentioned, we do have upcoming webinars. Stay tuned to our website for future webinars on all different topics, not just higher ed, but nonprofit, MBA, business topics. So we hope to see you soon. However, if you do have questions regarding graduate or undergraduate admissions, feel free to give us a call at our office here in Long Meadow. I didn't put the number on any of our slides, but I'm going to give it to you now. It's 413-565-1332, and just ask for which program you are looking at. Oh, yes, and we do have the 1-800 number. It's 800-782-7284, and just ask for whichever area you're looking for. We've got traditional, online, the one-day-a-week program, Saturday program, so we'd love to hear from you. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.